Okay, we've been talking about positioning for a while now. Let's talk about repositioning with a focus on products. Of course, repositioning refers to going in and repositioning products after a period of time. So, positioning is all about brands being built with a purpose of making the business or the product more memorable and appealing to a given audience. Of course, brands do this and products do this by identifying a unique point of difference and then communicating that difference through products and messages that resonate with the audience. So I claim to have a particular point of difference, and my product represents those differences. But of course, what happens if the brand doesn't achieve it, or what happens if it doesn't resonate with the audience? So, what happens if our positioning is perhaps not working? Well, remember, positioning happens at both a brand and a product level. At the brand level, it is more of a communications issue with looking at logos and spokespeople and slogans and trade dress and all those sorts of things. But at the product level, it's all about creating products that help establish the position. So product position is perhaps more difficult than brand positioning, but it happens more often. And the reason it happens more often is because companies are constantly adding new products and deleting old products and modifying current products. Remember, let's go back to the concept of heritage brands, which are brands that have been around for a very long time. Heritage brands have decades of brand equity, and of course, they may need to refresh their product positioning over time to adapt to a changing landscape, both changing in terms of customer preferences, but also changing in terms of the competitive landscape. So I may want to go in and refresh my product position because my consumers' tastes are changing. But I also might want to do it because of the competitive landscape changing, and perhaps the competition has come up with new products, and I need to either match those new products or create products that, in fact, are better than their new products. So repositioning is always an option, right? Repositioning marketing is a process a brand goes through to adjust or overhaul how it's going to be perceived in the marketplace, or a bit more likely, or more specifically, in the mind of the consumers to better appeal to the target audience. The purpose of brand repositioning is quite simple: to reposition the brand in the mind of the audience so they see the brand as a more viable option. Or the purpose of the brand repositioning is to change how customers perceive our brand. But we always talk about repositioning as if it is due to us having a struggling brand or a difficult position. But that's not always the case. There are lots of other reasons we might reposition that aren't due to slumping sales or our brand falling out of favor with customers. Sometimes we're just updating it to stay ahead of changing preferences by consumers and changing competitive landscapes with our different competitors, perhaps new competitors or our older competitors changing how they are doing business. All right, so there are two terms that we need to make sure that we distinguish between: repositioning and rebranding. And this is a little bit like segments and target markets. These two concepts are related, but they are not the same thing. So there's an assumption among business owners that rebranding and repositioning, now that's all the same stuff. Well, it's not. All right, so let's see if I can very quickly explain the difference. Repositioning involves reshaping the perception and positioning of the brand in the mind of the consumer while retaining its core identity. So let's say it's an automobile and it's Buick. Well, it's still a Buick, but I want you to think of the Buick in this light. Rebranding, on the other hand, entails a visual and communications transformation, including perhaps even changing the brand's name, its visual identity, its trade dress, the messaging, and the overall, quote, brand essence. So branding has more to do with communications, and repositioning often has more to do with the actual product offerings. Why reposition? Well, of course, we talked a little bit about this before, right? Markets could be evolving. There could be new submarkets, changes in the markets. There could be a change in our audience's tastes and preferences, or of course, there could be a change in the competition, either new competition or emerging competition or old competition that is changing the way they do business. All good reasons why we might reposition. Some advantages of repositioning include the excitement that comes with a repositioned product and sort of a new relaunch. Subway recently was purchased by a different set of investment bankers, and they decided to change the overall positioning for Subway. And it was met with some concern by some of the franchisees, but at the same time, it was also met with a level of excitement. What else might we? What are some of the other advantages of repositioning? Well, it helps us get refocused on who our target audience is and what needs and wants we are going to satisfy. It also helps us refocus on operations so that our operations are designed to create products that best exemplify our position. And then, of course, fourth on the list is there's enhanced competitive advantage because we sharpen what it is that creates a difference between us and the competition and how that difference creates value for our customers. And of course, it's a completely new, fresh perception and a revitalization of both employees and customers. But repositioning also has some risk associated with it. First off, it can be expensive. Some of the repositioning plans that I've been around, people want the company to go in and sort of change everything. The trick, of course, is to do a risk analysis in terms of is the cost worth the potential benefit. Another danger of repositioning is you can alienate your current customers. This has happened most recently with Buick, as Buick has decided to reposition themselves as the EV pioneer for General Motors moving forward. By 2030, all of the Buick cars will be electric EVs. That does alienate a bunch of current customers who are not that interested in EVs and believe more in the traditional automobiles, which includes, of course, combustible engines. And then, of course, the third danger is brand inconsistency and brand confusion by the customers because as we reposition, they have their old thoughts about the brand, and now they have their new positioning for the brand. So the old positioning and the new positioning might create some brand thought inconsistency and also some brand inconsistency in the perceptions by the customers. All right, let's then go through the repositioning steps. Repositioning steps include a situation analysis. All marketing planning includes a situation analysis. Every time you have a course in marketing, somebody who's in charge of the course should be talking to you about the planning process, and of course, all planning processes start with the situation analysis. In terms of repositioning, of course, it includes an industry analysis to find out where the industry is headed. It most importantly includes an internal analysis in terms of current positioning strategies and offerings and how we might want to change that in the future. We need to understand what our customers' wants and needs are and if they are changing over time. We also need to do a situation analysis looking at our competition and the competitive landscape and, of course, the macro environmental analysis. So once we get through the situation analysis, we can define who the competition is and what their positioning strategies are. We can redefine who the customers are and how their tastes and changes might be changing and what new things and new customers we might be wanting to position our product to and focus on. All right. Next, we want to identify any positioning gaps and holes in places where we might find our ability to reposition our products and our brands. Then we want to make sure that we define that difference and create our new identity. All right. This is a difficult step. It requires both analytical skills, that is, looking at data to understand what our differences are and what differences create value, and a creativity element to help us create that new identity. This is a skill set that is crucial for great marketers. Both analytical skills, that is, becoming data driven, and the ability to take that data and creatively use it to create a new identity for the company. Next, we write our positioning statement, and we have a separate video on writing positioning statements. But the trick here is to be concise. One word, one sentence, one idea has to be in our positioning statement. It cannot have a bunch of commas in it. It is one idea, one thought, one word, one idea. And then we need to be able, of course, to communicate our new position to our audiences. Remember, our positioning or even our repositioning defines who we are, how we're different, and how that will benefit in difference creates value for our end user, that is the most important people, our customers. In summary, you can either do a product or brand reposition, or in many cases, both at the same time. Good repositioning takes data, knowledge, and creativity. And those are skill sets that not everyone has, but it does require some expertise and some training. And I know that you folks can make that happen.